So let's move on to the kind of crux of the matter, which I think we've touched on a few times. So how much zero trust can you achieve with existing investments? I'm going to go out on a limb here as a working point. So I'm going to say, actually, for instance, if you're an E5 consumer using their security suite, which the majority of public sector kind of are moving towards, actually you've got an enterprise grade EDR, you've got a version of CASB or some DLP controls, you're already doing device management through Intune, you'll probably have zero AD when you're doing identity-based, obviously equivalents for all of these things do exist in the marketplace. But actually, you start to realise you can tick a lot of those elements and boxes from the existing components you've got, and if not, Microsoft flavoured ones, there are plenty of identity and access management platforms, organisation kind of device control platforms available. But actually, you've probably got something that addresses most of those components that you can start to reuse. I would say the only thing Microsoft doesn't address is the network. Okay, they have nothing in the network access space because they've openly said they're not a network company, so they don't.
Well, watch this space because I think that might change.
I'll hold my breath later.
Yes.
But in terms of that, I'm looking to reuse. So rather than zero trust potentially being a kind of new capital, large-scale investment program, like how much you've seen people manage to achieve with things they've already done, being able to do more targeted investment.
But you're absolutely right in that there is part of a good zero trust strategy is putting those strands together to create a policy enforcement point, drawing on all those strands that are already there, and making sure that you utilise your existing investments, right? Because I think there's a lot of organisations out there that like to buy toys and don't necessarily get them out of the box, or do get them out of the box and then sort of put them back without sort of using them properly. And I remember when I was very much focused on the public sector in around 2008 during the financial crisis, and the next year I remember going to a customer in the Treasury actually, and sort of saying, so what's the investment this year? We're going to have to just get all the stuff that we've already bought to work. Like that sounds boring. Yeah, but so there is part, that is part of it. There's also cost savings to be made, and we've worked with organisations that have had a lot of legacy infrastructure there that was not very efficient, and by implementing good zero trust approaches that routed users more accurately to the resources that they were accessing, rather than tromboning out through a particular concentration point and then across an MPLS network and then out to another site somewhere else. And by just targeting that more accurately and gluing users more directly into the resources that they were accessing, they were able to make cost savings at the back-end infrastructure and tear down a lot of that MPLS, or certainly reduce it down a lot. So there are things that a good zero trust strategy will allow you to cut down on. We have seen customers that by getting zero trust tools to manage user access with a tool that's designed to manage user access, not using legacy static firewall rules that you drop a marble in the top off and it sort of bounces down through a rule set and you get an outcome at the bottom eventually, which is really hard graft for a firewall to do. Using zero trust tools that are typically Boolean driven logic engines to take the heavy lifting out of the firewall infrastructure, we've seen a lot of customers be able to rationalize or simplify their firewall rule base to sweat those assets for longer as well. So there are things that a good zero trust solution will be able to pull together from existing investment. There are legacy things that a good zero trust approach might enable you to reduce or cut back on, and there's simplification capability as well.
Can I same kind of question to you? As part of your journey towards zero trust, have you had to make significant investments just to achieve that, or have you been able to reuse a lot of the existing investment in strategic asset management?
We're quite lucky actually. So we are a big Microsoft user, like all police forces are in the UK. So we've got the E5 license, we've got the bits around that. E5 doesn't do the network, and so if I've got users coming in from elsewhere and promoting traffic through, physical firewalls. I could, it's a bit around where you say you do the enforcement up front. Really, I shouldn't be bringing that traffic all the way in to kind of check it. So, I should be saying, right, can I use the logs from the EDR to give me IP addressing? I probably could. So then I could work out if my users are taking the devices on holiday abroad. Did they raise a ticket? And could I go and check my ticketing tool? And I could manage and get them banned or whatever, or get them fired. But it's not that. But you see, so there are bits within the stack that you could reuse. So there's bits that you could do around that kind of upfront posture checking if you needed to do that. But then you've got to think actually how dynamic is that?
Yeah.
So today I'll probably I would say well actually I've allowed particular users to come in from Germany, but by the end of the evening I want to stop that. I need to be that dynamic. And does that tool, the investment I've got to make in, does it give me that? I can get there, but it's quite android. So I think so we've got bits and pieces. I think you made a really good point. Is actually knitting those bits together to say actually right, I can augment those services, and that's the bit that would be.
I like the idea of firing people for working on holiday, which we'd implement that policy.
I think that's pretty interesting because at that point, then also the things you're talking about in terms of investment criteria, you come up about whether it does trust, as an example, but it's whether it increases your responsiveness, whether it's dynamic enough to respond to the change in the context of your environment. And actually, those are really excellent assessment criteria for people to be able to draw through. It's not whether it has this special buzzword in the title, it's about what allows you to respond in that more dynamic, whether it can react to the context. Unless you have a fairly simple organisation, things change, the world happens, bits of the world catch on fire, etc. Being able to respond quite flexibly and dynamically to that, and what should or should not be happening in those situations becomes very much about business resilience and business response. Wonderful. So we've talked about the fact that it could save you money, it can improve performance, it improves your security posture, and it can improve the user experience.
Definitely.
I'm not sure it's really not to like.
No.
But